Hi, everyone. David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at the big race on Saturday at Saratoga, the final Saturday of this 2025 Saratoga meet. It is the Grade 1 Spinaway going the 7 furlong distance for the 2-year-olds. And there is a lot going on this Saturday card, and a lot planned right on through this Labor Day weekend all across the country in the horse racing world. So you definitely want to refresh your handicapping past performance subscriptions by taking a look at the plans we've got on offer at shop.drf.com using our Labor Day sale, and you can take advantage of this Labor Day sale using the coupon code LBD15 off. You can save 15% on all of your favorite handicapping products in the DRF store at shop.drf.com. Just use that code to take advantage of the Labor Day sale when you're doing your shopping for this weekend. Mike, let's take a look at the field of 10 runners that are entered for this Spinaway, which goes as race 11 on a 13 race card this Saturday at Saratoga. And pretty nice matchup here, Mike. I mean, you've got a lot of horses in here that have plenty to prove, but the two horses that I pegged as the favorites on the morning line, they have both shown a lot of talent. Two-time stakes winner Mythical, as well as last out debut winner Tommy Joe.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, it seems, kind of silly to think that Mythical, who's, already a two-time stakes winner, has already defeated Colts in her career, has a 93 by her speed figure on her page already. To look at that and say she's not the favorite in this race, you would think maybe that's a little strange. It's really not when you consider what Tommy Joe did, who you did make the morning line favorite, what she did in her career debut up here.
Yeah, Tommy Joe, when she won her debut, she did it in a way that had a lot of people talking about her as maybe the potential Spinaway favorite, and we'll see if that comes to fruition on Saturday, but would not be a surprise if she was able to make it 2 in a row in a Grade 1 race second time out. We'll get to her in just a little bit, but let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector before we get into the main contenders, because Mike, as often in these 2-year-old races, a lot of horses are lightly raced coming out of maybe debut wins where many of them showed early speed, so you do tend to get some pretty honest paces, especially when they stretch out to a distance like 7 furlongs where stamina can really come into play. So you worry a little bit about horses that need to be forward. And the number 4 Mythical, one of those favorites, she is a horse that has only showed one dimension in her races, going to the front end. And there could be some contention here, though do note that the number 7 Steer Clear, who's shown on the lead, remains to be seen if she's going to run here or in a maiden race that she's cross-entered in on Friday.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like, if they decide to go in the easier spot on Friday's card, maybe that helps Mythical, certainly a little bit. But, either way, it kind of feels like Mythical's making the lead in this race, David. She's a really fast horse and just kind of feels like she's one-way speed at this point. I'm not sure why they would try to change it here, even if they were, slightly concerned about the 7 furlongs.
Yeah, Mythical's fast, but don't underrate the speed of the number 6 Cena. That is a really quick filly. We'll get to talking about her in just a little bit, but those two hooking up from the front end alone could ensure an honest pace in the Spinaway. Let's go through the field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1 Ornalaya, a horse who would appreciate any pace that does develop in this race because she showed the ability to close from far back in her career debut. Yeah, that's her, showing all the way back, covered in dirt, and about 6th at the top of the stretch here, but she is able to mow this field down and weaving her way through traffic, and as soon as Flavien Prat is able to tip her out into the clear in mid-stretch here, she just runs right on by these tired leaders. And Mike, it's not like she had things go perfectly for her early in the race because she broke slowly, had her path completely taken from her coming out of the starting gate, dropped way back, and she just kept advancing throughout every stage of this race to get the job done. And when going away and looking like a horse that shouldn't mind an extra furlong.
Liked everything about her debut, except for the fact, I guess she just didn't get out of the gate that well, just sort of last away. And then she looked a little green early on, but man, liked everything about the performance there. So you could see her just sort of starting to figure things out during the running, really leveled off into a run around the turn. And as you pointed out, as soon as Pratt angled her clear there at the 8th pole, she really ran. Listen, she had a pretty fast and competitive pace in front of her to come after, but I didn't see a bunch of other horses flying through the stretch in there. I only saw her, and I felt like it was not only a really good first performance, seems like there's more to come with her. They paid a lot of money for her, and she really ran first time out.
And that race only got a 72 buyer. You might remember, Mike, that was a race where there were stories about a lot of horses taking money. They had to for her to go off at 9-2 with her purchase price. So sometimes those races don't get the fastest speed figures, but they tend to be stronger moving forward than they look at the time. The number 2 Meringue is a horse who finished second in a graded stakes at her most recent start, the Adirondack, where she made a run between horses in the stretch, had to pause a little bit in traffic when a horse cut her off in about the quarter pole of that race before finishing at the end, Mike. And I make that point because maybe the margin between her and Mythical Mythical would have been cut down a little bit if she had had a clear run and hadn't got her momentum broken at the quarter pole of that race. But at least she handled the transition to dirt because she looked pretty good when she made her debut on the turf.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it too. I mean, she looked comfortable on the dirt in that race, and that's with Pratt, just sort of raiding her back. He didn't rush her at all in the first part of that race. He was happy to sit last with her. A little bit of trouble at the top of the stretch, but she finished up pretty well in there. Really liked her debut. I know it was on a different surface, but man, she got bumped really hard at the start of that race and knocked to the back of the field, and she flew through the stretch in there. I do think she's pretty talented, and she's probably going to get overlooked in here.
The number 3, Riley Tolley, is going to be a big price in this race as one of 3 Safi Joseph trade entrants in here, Mike. And she made her debut down at Gulfstream Parko in the 5.5 furlong distance. We'll take a look at the stretch run of that race and looked like a horse that was kind of figuring things out over the course of the race. She was a little green early, kind of got spun a little bit wide off the turn. But you could see here, when she switches over to her right lead, she kind of finds an extra gear and she really does finish off this race nicely. Just not sure what she was beating down in Florida.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's hard to make a case for her against this field just based off of the only time that we've seen her. It's not a fast race. It might not have been a strong field. She still did all the kinds of things that I like to see from a 2-year-old first-time starter to just win that race from well off the pace. And again, another race where it's not like a bunch of horses were closing. The horse that she ran down, who was actually her stablemate, the favorite in that race, who was on the lead the entire way. And this horse just came, figured it out late, ran her over, kept going past the wire. We'll see how much she can improve.
The number 4, Mythical, is definitely the most accomplished of the fillies in this race. As we said earlier, she was a 2-time stakes winner, as Mike rightly pointed out, a stakes winner against the males in her second career start when she won the Tremont and came back against her own sex in the Adirondack last time, was able to win that race impressively. We'll take a look at the stretch run of the Adirondack, where she holds off Meringue, who I already talked about. You could see that trouble Meringue is getting into at the top of the stretch. She's the second horse that's highlighted there, but Mythical, well clear of that, showing her customary early speed, and she just runs this field off its feet, as she had in every start of her career so far. And like, my general feeling with horses like this is that I want to bet against them when they get to these big stakes races at the end of the meet, because we've seen the trend over the past few years where stakes like the Schuylerville and the Astoria and the Adirondack, they don't attract the toughest fields because horses tend to debut later and later in this day and age. And we see the maiden fields getting stronger and stronger at Saratoga. And you see some of the strength start to come to the fore in this race. And I wonder if the waters are just getting much deeper for Mythical.
Couldn't agree more. I have nothing but respect for Mythical in the races that she's run, and she's really fast. And every one of her races is good. I know that she regressed a little bit in the Adirondack last time, but she was never losing there. Just going right to the front. I really like her. I do expect this to be a way harder race for her to win, particularly going 7 furlongs. And if she's going to be one of the favorites here, I'm probably taking a shot against her in here, but I really respect her.
And like all the things I just said about Mythical, I could apply them to the number 5, Percy's Bar, as well. A horse that debuted back in April at Keeneland. She won a stakes race in June, the debutante at Churchill Downs. And those races typically aren't nearly as tough as some of the graded stakes races by the time you get to the end of August and September. So I think she's facing a much tougher field in here. At least with Percy's Bar, though, Mike, I think she's a bit more under the radar, and she's going to be a better price than Mythical is in this race. And I've got to say, when I go back to watch those replays, she was visually impressive in each of her wins.
I agree. I mean, we'll see how good she ultimately is, because I do feel like even with a stakes win already on her card, she's probably still got something to prove here, as they should have been. But man, not only was she really good, and listen, the debutante, first of all, had a really fast and contested pace, and she got a clean trip into it. She just sort of sat in mid-pack, but just swept up on that field on the turn and just won it as easy as you wanted to see her win it. Even her debut, I don't know if you agree with this thing. I thought that was an unbelievable performance, because she had the trouble that she had early in that race is just, it's supposed to get her beat, and not especially going 4.5. And not only didn't it get her beat, she smashed that field.
Yeah, I was just watching it again before we did this video, and I was kind of doing a double take, like, wait a minute, do I have the right horse? Because we watch so many of those 4.5 furlong races, and horses that have starts like that, they don't win those races. She was able to get it done. I will say, I've watched some of her workouts coming in here. She looks like she might be ready to take a step forward. She is training really well at Keeneland. The number 6, Cena, is coming in off a maiden win at Delaware in the second start of her career. We'll take a look at the replay of that race. And Mike, Obviously, she wasn't beating much in here. I think if you like her, you're maybe more interested in her debut race at Churchill Downs, where she hooked up in a duel through a wicked opening quarter mile, sub 21 seconds. I know they can run some fast quarter miles at Churchill Downs going 6 furlongs, but for the 2-year-olds to go 20-4, that's meaningful, and it took its toll on both of the leaders. But I mean, at least she was able to hold on for second in the race, where the other horse faded much worse to finish off the board in there. And you will look at the pedigree for this one and notice that she is the half sister to Alva Star, a Grade 1 winner who raced for these connections. So there is potential for this filly to run a little faster this time.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe ultimately, and listen, you're not going to better off the race that we just showed there at Delaware, where she broke her maiden, unchallenged around the track. But ultimately, maybe that was just a really good move by her connections to just, go for an easier spot off of the debut, where she ran her eyeballs out in that race and just had to settle for second. You could see when you go back to watch the replay how tired she was in the last 16th of a mile there. But she did hold on for second. She's certainly better than she looks on paper, but this is not an easy spot.
The number 7, Steer Clear. She's one of 2 Todd Pletcher trainees in this race. As I said earlier, she is cross-entered in a 7-furlong maiden race on Friday's card at Saratoga, where I think she'd likely be the favorite. So we'll see where they decide to run her. But if they do aim for this Grade 1 Spinaway, Mike, I mean, she belongs with this field. We talked about how Ornelia took advantage of a fast pace when she won her debut, while Steer Clear was the other horse highlighted in that replay. And she was the one that was right up in the teeth of that pace every step of the way and was able to put away the other speeds to hold on for second there. Not going to be surprised when she takes a step forward.
Me either. I don't know if they're going to run here. Obviously share some connections there with the horse that you made the morning line favorite. So I don't know if they want to run both of these fillies in the same race, but I'm with you. I mean, if they do decide to run here, it's not like she's impossible. She didn't win first time out, but she ran really well.
And that horse that she does share ownership and a trainer with is the number 8, Tommy Joe. And I made her the morning line favorite on the strength of this debut race that we'll take a look at right here, where, Mike, she just traveled well every step of the way. It should be noted, she didn't even get out of the gate that well, but she moved up easily on the backstretch, and she made this move just before we picked up this replay around the far turn, where she just takes the race over. And you could tell coming to the quarter pole that she was going to win and win easily. And it's not like there was nothing going on behind her, because the runner-up Tennessee Belle actually puts in a strong finish to get up for second in here, but she still is far behind Tommy Joe at the wire. And that runner-up did come back to win her next start, improving her buyer by 1 point.
Yeah, came back and broke her maiden pretty impressively too. That it just seemed like it was just a good race from start to finish from Tommy Joe. And there, as you mentioned, she got bumped at the start, but then after that, just sort of cruised around the track there. You could tell she was going to win. There was also a race earlier on that card for 2-year-old colts, and she went faster than those horses did on the day. Just a really, really strong performance. And it just feels like she's one of those 2-year-olds who just could be ahead of most of her competition. And I'm not surprised to see her entered in a Grade 1 for start number 2.
I watched her last workout coming out of that debut, and just to see how these horses are doing coming out of they're a hard race first time out. She was in what looked like a solo maintenance drill, and 2 other workers from a different stable kind of came up on her inside. And as soon as she felt their presence, it's like she kicked on and maybe put in a harder work than they were intending, just showing that competitive spirit that she has. And you want to see that, a horse that is fresh coming out of a hard race. The number 9, Spirit Doll, is also coming out of a debut win where she took a lot of money, got bet down to 7-5, but that was one of those auction restricted maiden races, so probably not as tough a field as a race like Tommy Joe or Ornelia comes out of. But we'll take a look at the replay of the stretch run, Mike. She didn't have to dig in through the late stages to get the job done. I thought she showed a bit of greediness. She's trying to lug in through the stretch here, but she ultimately gets the job done. She's just stepping up into a tougher spot.
Yeah, you can see how green she is. When you watch the head on of this replay, you can see her just try to sort of drift in towards the end of this race, but she's still coming. She's going to close it down. I think it's also, fair to point out that she stumbled pretty badly at the start of this race. But you could just see how athletic she was. She really recovered very quickly from the stumble, got herself into position. I thought she ran really well in that race, David. It didn't make me want to bet her back against a field like this one.
Mike, I found a fascinating DRF formulator fact for all 3 of these Saffie Joseph runners, and I didn't send it in for our producers to make graphics for, so don't panic, Bobby. You're not missing anything for this, but there was nothing to show, because I looked up the stat for 2-year-old last out maiden winners on the dirt coming back in a graded stakes for the next start. The sample size is 0. Savvy Joseph has never done it before, at least not in the past 5 years. So something
Huh.
interesting and a surprising stat for me with these 3 runners in here. The number 10 Day to Day is the final of those Savvy Joseph trained runners, and the last horse in this field drawn to the far outside. I'm guessing she was a private purchase since the debut race, Mike, where she won at Colonial Downs on the turf, and she did make a relentless rally from towards the back of the pack to get up. Looked like she was just kind of staying on at one pace and moving into a different barn here. There is some dirt pedigree. It's just a pretty tall order to switch surfaces in a Grade 1.
Exactly. It seems like maybe there's even more pedigree for dirt than there is for turf. So maybe she deserves extra credit for winning on that surface first time out. Don't see how I could bet her in here.
Let's go to picks for this Grade 1 Spinaway, a pretty fascinating race. I'm looking to see how this one plays out on the racetrack, Mike, maybe more so than betting it. And you're going to land on the number 8, Tommy Joe, and I don't disagree. Based on that debut effort, she is the one to beat.
Yeah, it's funny. I had Percy's Bar on top, and I want to put it. I had her on top for a long time before I finished with this race, David. And ultimately, I decided, and I usually don't get swayed by stuff like this, but I saw the same workout that you saw, and once I saw that, I was like, you know what? She might be really good. So I'm going to put Tommy Joe on top, even though she's the favorite. But Percy's Bar was the other horse for me.
And I put the number 1, Ornalaya, on top. She's obviously going to have to progress a little from her debut race if she's going to beat a horse like Tommy Joe, if that one runs back to her debut effort. But pace usually does develop in these races, Mike, and she feels like the kind of horse that she showed her natural running style on debut. She doesn't have a whole lot of early speed, so we'll see if she can come pick them up late. I do think she's going to be a slightly better price. I do want to use that number 6, Cena, somewhere. I think she's going to be a big price in this race, and she's better than her speed figure suggests, but definitely the 2 horses coming off those debut wins are going to be tough. 1-8-6-5 for me, and 8-5-3-4 for Mike in the Grade 1 Spinaway Race 11 at Saratoga this Saturday. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.